So I created a Discord for the community, and that's where everything really changed. Some people volunteered to be admins, and then they created this beautiful community. Now it's only a couple hundred people. It's like 215, 220 or something at this point, but it keeps growing every day. And it's all people who just are so supportive, who like to watch my live streams. They want to get notifications. I have a community now, and it's beautiful.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode, another edition of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. I am your host, Jon Santiago, and each week, in case you're new around here, I interview content creators about their stories, strategies, and experiences of building an online audience through video. And this week, I have the pleasure of speaking with Luke, better known as Nomadic Gaijin. That is the name of his YouTube channel. And Luke is an American-born man, specifically from California, who has been living in Japan for more than a decade. And he's always shared videos and content with friends privately about his time living in the land of the rising sun. In 2020, he decided to take the plunge and start sharing those stories and those experiences through video on a YouTube channel. His goal is to become the first person to see every possible site that Japan has to offer, and he wants to take his viewers and subscribers along for the ride. I actually found Luke through what he was doing on Reddit, and this is what we talk about in this conversation, which I think will be interesting for those of you creators who are trying to find some sort of unfair advantage or some way you can promote your content or promote your channel or grow your audience, right? Many creators have a tendency to just rely solely on the YouTube algorithm when there are ways to get in front of people that just take a little bit of creativity. I found Nomadic Gaijin through the live streams he was doing on Reddit. He was specifically streaming live on the subreddit Where in the World, just taking people on walking tours essentially around parts of Japan. He had mentioned in the live stream that he had a YouTube channel, and I went to it, saw his videos, and was amazed at the quality of the videos that he was creating. For a YouTuber with fewer than, at the time, a couple hundred subscribers, he was producing content that, rivals some of the top YouTubers in his niche. Amazingly, if you've never perused YouTube for this, there are quite a lot of foreigners vlogging in Japan on YouTube. And Luke is, for a small YouTuber, he is holding his own against them. We talk about how his community has really started to grow and take off thanks to the work that he's been doing both on YouTube but also through live streaming on Reddit. And that is something that was really fascinating to me to have a conversation about. We also talk about his community in general and how that has been developing through Reddit. And he's got a Discord channel with a couple hundred members at this point, and he's been able to rally a small number of people who are just very interested and invested in the work that he's doing on YouTube. And so we talk about how that has been panning out, how he manages that. It's really actually a very hands-off approach for him. He has help, and the help has just come straight from the community. So we talk about that. We talk about his journey to Japan. As I mentioned, he's been in Japan for more than a decade now, and why he ended up in Japan, what he was doing before starting a YouTube channel. So we dive into all of those things, and you will get to learn about that in just a moment. But before we toss to the conversation, I want to remind all of you, if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. You can watch video versions of these conversations that I'm having with creators. And hit the notification bell and the like button while you're at it if you're enjoying the show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and toss it to my conversation with Luke, aka Nomadic Gaijin. Luke, the Nomadic Gaijin. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. It's a pleasure to have you on, my friend.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Yeah, I have been watching your videos here and there, I think for like the last few months or so.
Oh.
I mean, I feel like you should be at some point like a YouTube creator on the rise, because the content that you're making is just really incredible. And it's a testament to you and your commitment to this, because you are a small YouTuber at this point. I think as we have this conversation, you're closing in on 2,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
Like, I think I found you when you were at like 500 or something like that. But I remember watching him and I was like, this guy is committed. He's making like high quality content. I kind of want to start there with you, your decision to just go into this really like hard. You started the YouTube channel basically last year in 2020, and you've been really just committing a good amount of time and effort into like making this channel work.
Yeah, I haven't really slept much in the last year. I can be honest about that. But yeah, and I appreciate that you're checking out the content. And yeah, I put a lot of work into it. My voice is almost dead from the live streams lately.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's another thing I want to talk to you about too, because I think that's how I initially found you. So anyways, continue.
I've been wanting to start a YouTube channel for years, really. And I couldn't get that push to get started. I was always like testing out some gear or trying it, recording stuff, but I just didn't have the motivation. And I don't know why. Maybe it was a pandemic, or maybe having the extra time suddenly, but I just said, go for it. And I put everything. I've never put this much effort into anything in my life, I think. It's just like actually going straight forward with it was quite a challenge, but it's been so much fun. Now I've loved it.
It really seemed, again, it really reflects in like the content that you're making. We'll expand a little bit on that, but I want to also go into how you ended up in Japan. I was watching one of your live streams recently. I found out that you're from California. Yeah. I'm also from California. Oh. You're from Southern California, yes. San Diego, but I'm from the Bay Area. No love lost there. but like I don't really feel like Bay Area and San Diego have beef.
Nah.
It's more of we have more beef with like Los Angeles.
Yeah. You guys can duke it out. We're all right.
Exactly. That's how I see San Diego. San Diego is kind of just like chilling in the background and having a good time, while like LA and the Bay Area just kind of duke it out. Tell me and the listeners and viewers of the show how you ended up in Japan in the first place.
Yeah, I was in college. I needed a language unit, and my roommate was studying Japanese, and he's like, just try it. It looked really fun. So I tried it. I took a class. I decided to come out here in college, and I don't know what it is, but when I got off that plane, I just felt like this is where I belong. And as soon as I graduated, I applied for jobs here and came out, and yeah, I love it here. I can't get enough of it. Even after 13 years. Most people are pretty jaded by this point. We're kind of like over it, but every day still feels like it's the first day to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Japan before, and Japan is such a incredible place, and I've only been to Tokyo. So I can only imagine what it's like for you, especially now with the YouTube channel. It's kind of like giving you reason to go out and explore more and kind of keep that curiosity about the country that you now call home alive to a certain extent.
Yeah, and the kind of comment that I get from viewers is that everything I do feels, I guess, kind of real, because I really do get excited about everything I see. I'm not like acting. Every little shrine, every little thing, usually that's kind of already done for people by this point, but I'm just so excited every day when I'm walking around doing the live streams, when I'm doing the YouTube videos. I don't know. I'm like a child, just still impressed with everything that I see. And I think that does come out in the content that I create. I hope it does anyways.
Yeah, no, as someone who views your channel, I see that. And then even with like the live streams and whatnot, like you're just really just exploring the environments that you're in. So when you moved there, what did you do? What was your career for basically like the last 13 years diving into YouTube?
Yeah, it's a weird career path, actually. So I came out with a big English school. It's just hour-long lessons of, they call it eikaiwa here. And I did a bunch of those. I was working in a very busy school. I went back to San Diego. I missed it so much here. I came back with another English school. And then somehow after that company went bankrupt. Geos actually went bankrupt. And I went into international kindergarten field, and I loved it. I loved working with kids. And I kind of feel like that's very similar to how the streams go or the YouTube goes. I'm explaining things to people that don't really know necessarily what I'm doing or the content. And I'm answering the same questions over and over again, but I don't mind at all because I've been working with kids. And I went from that into being a principal of a kindergarten, of an international kindergarten, and during COVID, which was very difficult. Yeah.
Wow.
So managing my time as a school principal and starting the YouTube was, like I said, pretty much lacking sleep for a long time. It was very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, what was that like? I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, as far as just like shifting all of the ways schooling was done to now everything just being remote.
Well, Japan never really got into the remote thing. The schools are still open. The kindergarten's running still.
Oh, okay.
And so what we did was we closed the school for about a month and a half. During it was, I think, April, May last year. After that, we went right back to everything as normal. But the school is very event based, and I had to change everything. I had to make it more. We would do a live stream, and I'd make YouTube videos for the events. And it was just a very stressful time. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend being in any kind of position of being in charge or anything during the pandemic. It's just really hard.
Yeah, especially with running a school. I feel like that's like, other than maybe like hospitals, first responders, like that is like ground zero for just like all kinds of craziness. Yeah,
it really was. There was a hospital right next to the school, and it was the biggest hotspot in Japan at the time. It just like COVID exploded there, and it was right next door. And so of course there was a lot of panic and a lot of damage control and those kind of things, but it was all right. It was just hard.
So starting the YouTube channel essentially like on the side in the middle of a pandemic while you're running a school as a principal, how were you finding time to do that? What did you do to ensure that you were able to create content that was of high quality, but at the same time not lose focus at your day job?
It was a real big challenge. It basically took me, my first video I think took about a month, even though I was just tasting Sakura flavored things. It took me about a month to put that out. It was just, go to work, come home, put a couple hours in, get a little bit of sleep, and it was that cycle over and over again. It took me so long to learn how to do, because everything's new, right? Like as I said, it took me so long to learn how to use the video editing software or the camera, get all the gear, all that stuff. So it was just a long process and a lot of missed sleep. That's really all it was.
And then in terms of like teaching yourself how to create, like, were you just, I imagine everything was just like self-taught, right? Like you've just been watching YouTube for years and maybe like looking at different kinds of tutorials to kind of teach yourself what you needed to do.
Yeah, I did some online, they have various things like LinkedIn Learning and those kind of things where you can learn the software. I've been doing that for years to learn how to do a little bit of web building and graphic design and stuff. So I was used to that platform of watching people like walk you through, like you get example files and creating alongside someone on a video. And I did that for a couple months leading up to the YouTube. Yeah. But most of it's just learned as I'm editing. I just think that there would be a better solution than what I'm doing. So I look it up online and, oh yeah, okay. So people are trying to do exactly what I'm trying to do. And, there's a tutorial for it. So but that's it though. It's all been, very self-taught, and it was really difficult at first, but it gets easier and easier, I think.
Yeah. What was the most difficult part about just getting started in the beginning?
Initially the gear. So I thought I could just get a decent camera and go. And then I recorded my first video and the sound quality was terrible. The lighting was terrible. And I didn't realize the rabbit hole that I'd gotten into. I was just like, all right, So I had to do a lot of research. Okay, I need more lighting. I need a proper mic. I need to set the camera a certain way. I need a different lens. And then all that was very difficult. I think it's underestimated, I think, for a lot of new creators. I think some people do create with just very simple gear, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to make it as nice as I could. So I think that was a big challenge. And the first edit, just learning how the editing system works, the terms, even simple things like keyframes or stuff. I just had no idea what that meant or what it was. And learning all that was very intimidating.
What was the decision to just go all in with like a lot of the higher end equipment, right? Like, was there wasn't really much thought to like go in and say, hey, what if I just did this with my cell phone to begin with and see where it goes?
I did that. I did that about a year before I started the YouTube. Okay. I tried it with I had an iPad Pro, and I tried recording with that and editing with, I think it was LumaFusion or something. And I just wasn't impressed at all with the video results. And I look at YouTube and I'm like, I think I could do better. And none of my gear is really all that high end. I scoured the net for the cheapest but most effective things that I could use, and somehow have cobbled together a very weird set that I don't think anybody else has exactly the setup that I have. But it works. It works.
So were you doing that? So when you did try test drive essentially to begin, were you was that on another channel, or was that on this Nomadic Gaijin channel that you?
I didn't upload the videos. I just recorded and started playing around with them, and I just thought this looks so amateur. I mean, my videos are still amateur, but like it looked way more amateur. I'll have to show you a video sometime. It's really bad.
But see, that's amazing to me that you think that you feel like your videos right now are amateur, because I'm looking at these, I'm like, this is like high quality stuff. I mean, one of the things that I want to talk to you about is like the intro that you have. I mean, you even have like music. This is like nomadic. Like that is really, when I saw that and heard that, I said, man, this guy, are you sure this is his first YouTube channel? Because this seems like a channel from somebody who really knows what they're doing.
No, that I don't even have that intro anymore. But yeah, no, the intro. The intro was in the beginning. I was trying to come at it like I am someone who's been around for a while. So I had an intro, and almost everything in my first intro was stuff that was never on YouTube. It was just stuff I filmed while I was walking around and stuff. But I was just trying to create a culture. I guess how saturated the Japanese or the J-vlogger market is. I was trying to sort of get my foot in the door by coming in as someone who seems like they already had some experience. Seems like they'd already been around for a long time when I really hadn't been. So that's what I did.
Well, but you had been around for a long time already, right? Because you had already been living in Japan. It just was a case where you hadn't actually like created any content around it. I mean, were you kind of approaching the creation of content for your channel of like, hey, I'm already like telling people these stories or telling people about these places, and now I'm just creating videos around them, or was it a different kind of approach?
Yeah, I was, for the longest time, pretty much since I've been here, I was creating mostly Facebook albums of all my adventures and trips. And I would go back to San Diego, and people I didn't know, just friends of friends or friends of the family or something, would come up to me and say, I look at all your albums. It's amazing. Keep doing that stuff. I would love to see more. And I'd hear that kind of stuff and thinking, oh, well, maybe I should put out more content, not just on Facebook where it's just like, like older generations checking it out. But, actually I should get out there and make it. And I've always wanted to make videos. I actually recorded a lot of stuff. I've had like those little tiny Canon cameras, like the little pocket cam, since I was in college. And I'd always be recording stuff at whatever it was, like 480p or something, or like whatever, less quality probably. And I found that I've always enjoyed that so much. So I thought, why don't I just start a channel? Why don't I get into that? And I've loved it. This is just probably my favorite part of my whole life so far is everything I've done with YouTube and the live streams. And it's such a great community.
Yeah. What is it about just being able to like create stuff that is so, whatchamacallit, it's just so rewarding for you? Is it the process of making stuff and like synthesizing the thoughts in your head into something that is like tangible, Or is it just being able to maybe connect with different people? You know, you're building a community now on your channel. Is it that? I'm really curious about what is it that you find the most gratifying about creating on YouTube?
Yeah, it's so many things. That's a very cool question, actually. As far as the live streams go, I love connecting with the international community. I love being able to show the amazing parts of Japan and to communicate with people. For the YouTube, I originally it wasn't very popular. Like I didn't get many subs for a long time, and so I decided to look at it as this is a good memory, and I can go back and watch the videos and be really excited that I have kind of, I have terrible memory. So I can go back and watch a video and be like, oh, that was a really fun experience. And I do sometimes. I go back and watch my old videos and, oh, I really love that place, or I love that thing, And when people started commenting and saying, hey, I like your content, this is really interesting, please make more, then I started to feel like, because I almost gave up. After like 6 months. I was exhausted. I wasn't making the progress that I thought I would. I think everyone feels that way in the beginning, and I almost gave up. And then someone commented just, I love this so much. Please keep doing this. And I felt like, okay, I have almost like a duty now to keep showing things the way that I see it. And I love that. I don't know how else to explain it, but I really love the community engagement.
Just from one person, like leaving that comment was like enough for you to like refill the tank.
The comments that come from the community, I think a lot of people don't realize how special and how much of voice they have. But a few of the comments that I've gotten over the last year have really inspired me to do more when I feel like I'm running. Yeah, the tank is running out and I'm just exhausted. I've been editing for a week straight and I'm so tired, but then I put that video out and people are like, hey, that was really great. Thank you so much. That made my day, or something just really, really inspires me to continue.
Could you tell me about the moment that you had where you almost felt like giving up? You just said about 6 months into it, you were thinking to yourself, okay, this is a lot of work. This is very stressful. What was like your workflow like at that point in terms of how you were churning out and creating all of that content, and what adjustments did you make after, if any?
Yeah, like I mean, as I mentioned, because of the responsibility of running a kindergarten and the stress of COVID and dealing with all that, a couple of times I just felt really overwhelmed trying to balance. YouTube is essentially in itself like a full-time job. I mean, I was running the social media, I was creating content, but also trying to figure out what's next video. I'm filming while I'm also editing. And I just, at one point, I felt like I was about to break. It was like all this weight on my shoulders. I just thought anything that you do, any career path that you take, or it's always going to be difficult. And if I can't get through this, then what was the point? I put a lot of effort into it, put a lot of time into it. My wife has been nothing but supportive, and I've appreciated all that help. And I just decided I'm going to push through. And also, I think the big moment for me too was not doing it for other people, but just like I said, having the memories, just thinking, I changed my mindset from like, oh, I'm going to be famous or I'm going to do this. I just thought I'm going to enjoy these. And a couple of my friends will enjoy it too. My family will enjoy watching. And that's enough for me. And when I got to that point, the pressure came off. It was like, even if nobody watches this video ever, I'm going to enjoy making it. I'm going to enjoy watching it later. So it's totally okay. And it was just like this complete change for me.
Yeah, that's a very powerful way, I think, to look at creating content. Because like even for this podcast that we have now, I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I'm paid to do this because we're creating it for a company that I work with. But at the same time, it's not like we have like a giant amount of listeners at this point yet, because we're still building it. And for me, I find it very gratifying to just have it as a way to like meet interesting people like yourself who are doing cool things. Like I hear it all the time from like creators, both in YouTube but elsewhere as well, that it can be really useful just to enjoy making stuff for the sake of making stuff rather than like focusing on like becoming famous, which is something I actually do not want. I've like said that like multiple times. Like I fear becoming famous. For me, that wouldn't be pleasant. Is that something that has crossed your mind in terms of as the channel grows, thinking about like how you will deal with just the number of people that are, you know, following you and paying attention to you and essentially like, you know, demanding more content from you in the future?
Yeah. I make it a point to respond to every single person who messages me as soon as I can. And that has gotten very time consuming, but I think that's going to be more difficult as time goes on. But I enjoy it so much, and it's okay. I don't mind being in public. I mentioned it on my streams before, but I was very introverted when I was younger. I could never imagine that I would do the stuff that I'm doing now. but somewhere along the line, it just changed for me. I had this sort of like I call it a bubble. I don't know if anyone's ever talked about anything like this, but when I was teaching in kindergarten, I think that was a moment. Sorry, I'm kind of getting on a tangent here, but there was a moment when the parents all come to watch, and it's an observation day, and there's 50 to 60 people, adults, standing around the room with cameras, like arms crossed, just staring at you. And it was the most terrifying experience of my life. And I just sort of created a bubble around me and the kids, and I just ignored anything else outside that bubble. And then after a couple of those, I found that I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed because the kids were amazing and the class was great, and I knew what I was doing was good. So then I took that bubble away, and I actually like included them into that. Like I just engaged with the parents, I engaged with the community, and I had so much fun. And then doing Christmas plays or performances in front of hundreds of people with the kids, I started to really enjoy it, like being out there and showcasing these amazing kids. So I just took that to the YouTube, and now I'm showcasing Japan, but I feel the same way. It's just awesome. And I want to keep doing that. And I don't even remember what the question was, and I really I got off topic. Sorry about that.
No, I think it actually
Okay.
ties in, because I was asking you about like dealing with, you know, a growing audience and like the pressures that come with that. And it seems like from what I hear, what you're doing right now, at least to cope with it, is just to focus on like the audience that you have now, and like the immediate circle of people that you're bringing together through the content that you have. And eventually at some point, then it's like a matter of like thinking about, you know, what that might look like when the audience is much bigger. But I think that's like a valuable coping mechanism, honestly, to kind of think about like, I mean, because content creation and creating content is essentially like a performing in front of like a smaller audience, rather than thinking about like the larger number of people that could be potentially involved. I want to ask you about being an introvert. You mentioned that there, and that was one of the things that you had pointed out to me when I had asked you about some interesting prompts that could lead to some fascinating conversation between us. Was that just a conscious decision to just try to put yourself out there a little bit more, or did you sense that there was some changes happening with you personally where you started to feel just more comfortable with putting your personality a little bit more on display?
Yeah, I think it was all the stuff for work. I mean, my very first class I taught in Japan was in front of maybe 5 people. And I was so nervous and so scared. I had almost like a panic attack afterwards. I was just like, oh my God, I was in front of 5 people. I don't know. I had to grow. If I wanted to stay here, if I wanted to continue doing what I was doing, and moving up in the school, I was a manager, a head teacher, then a principal, right? All those things required me to keep putting myself in front of people, keep stepping out of my comfort zone. And early on, I was terrified. And after that, I was just like, I got excited. All right, I'm being pushed out of where I'm comfortable. I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow. Let's do this. And I just hyped myself up for it. Kind of like, let's go. Come on. Luke, you can do this. And then after a while, I found that I didn't need that hype anymore. It was very natural. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
You mentioned also that you have your wife How long have you been married?
Coming up on 8 years, but we've been together for about 12.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
Great. Did you guys meet in Japan or did you meet in the States?
We met here. I was looking when you first come here, it's quite lonely. You don't have friends. Your family's not here. And I went online looking for language partners. I didn't have any money either, and I wanted to learn Japanese. So the language partner, this website, I could say, hey, my name's Luke. I'm American, willing to help teach English. And then Japanese people would find me, and you do an hour of English, hour of Japanese. So you guys are both learning something and having a good time and then not paying anything. So it was a great system. And the whole story of my wife, I won't get into. It's a very romantic, awesome story of how everything came together, the timing and everything. But I'll just sum it up as, we met for the first time. We were supposed to meet for an hour just for the initial time. We ended up talking for 12 hours straight. Yeah. After that, we were talking every day and very connected. And so I was really surprised how supportive she's been with all this. Sometimes I'm so busy, I can't even see her with everything that I was doing. And the live streams have been so active, and she's been joining them, and she's been part of the YouTube. I really never saw that as a possibility, but Nomadic Gaijin wouldn't have happened without her. And I'm so happy that she's a part of the world that we've created,
Yeah, that's amazing, man. Honestly, that could be, I don't know if at some point, if you feel comfortable with sharing that story, but that could be like a piece of content. It could be a video in itself of like, for the YouTube channel. I'm sure people love stories. So I'm sure, and love stories are always like engaging in any format. I mean, as a viewer of your channel, I would be interested in watching that. So you have one vote.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
One vote for that if you would like to share.
I absolutely would. And she's interested too. So I definitely need to get on that.
So she has been, as you mentioned, she has been very supportive. In what ways has she been able to help you? I mean, is it just more in like indirect ways with just like living life, right? Or have there been like more direct ways where she's had an impact on the content that you're creating? I know you mentioned that she's like joining in on like the streams and engaging in the YouTube community. I mean, is there anything directly that she might be doing with as far as like the content creation side?
Yeah. She watches every video before I put it out, and she gives her honest opinion. She's very blunt. And it was hard for me to spend weeks on a video and show her in the beginning, and she'd be like, yeah, that's terrible. You need to change this. As a viewer, this is boring. And we had a few arguments about it in the beginning, but she has a very good eye for what a viewer, like an average viewer, would want to see. And so actually, lately, she doesn't have any comments because she likes the content that I'm putting out. But in the beginning, there was so much of like, that's too long. That's going to be boring. You got to cut that. You got to cut that. You got to make that shorter. And she helped me get a good sense of pace. So the videos that I produce they move at a fast pace now compared to the earlier ones where they're a little bit slower to get started. And so she's been very active in how I edit. She checks, the logo, the thumbnails. She's really, really helpful with all that stuff. So she doesn't have any design ability, but she can always tell me what her feeling is. And that's been so helpful.
Yeah, that is something that is definitely, I mean, just having like a second set of eyes, a second set of eyes on your content. Like, I mean, I imagine without that, like, who knows, you might be still at like 500 subscribers or fewer than 1,000 subscribers, right? Just because, you don't have someone immediate giving you feedback. And that's just sounds like something that is incredibly useful and valuable to you as you continue to grow in your journey as a YouTuber. I feel like you've kind of answered this in some of the answers and responses that you've given me thus far, but like I kind of want to dive into it again. Is the idea of being comfortable in front of the camera, right? Like, as someone who is introverted, are you at a point now where you feel like, okay, this is nothing to me? Or when you walk around with like your gimbal in hand and you're live streaming on Reddit, or you've got like I don't know, I imagine you have something similar to what I have. What is this? Why can't I think of this like tripod thing that I have my camera set up on. But you've got that, and you're like talking into the camera while you're walking around. Does that still feel awkward at all, or have you gotten used to it?
Not at all. I mean, and not awkward at all. I mean, it's it started with the same way that I did everything else. I put a bubble around myself, and I didn't see anything except the camera. Now it's just I just don't care. I love it. People stare at me. Sometimes kids will like run up and they want to be in the video and stuff. Most people are just like, they cover their face and they kind of just walk away. But I think because Japan, they're very nice. No one's harassing me. No one's causing any trouble. I think that helped get it easy to adjust. They just kind of ignore me. But yeah, now getting in front of the camera, getting in, doing live streams, it's actually exciting. I actually love it. So it's just completely turned around. It's the opposite. I feel so happy when I'm filming for YouTube or when I'm filming anywhere. But the very first travel video I did, I was so scared. Nobody was around at first, so I'm like walking around and talking about this place, and then a cable car came up and a bunch of people just entered the area, and I started whispering. I was like, "So over here is this," and I'm like, what? Wait, and then I had this sort of moment, like, wait a minute, if I can't be comfortable in front of people, what am I doing? I have to get better. Otherwise, I'm done. I shouldn't do YouTube. And so it was another one of those growth moments for me. I started talking really loud so I could go the opposite way. So over here we have, and that actually helped me get out of it, because everyone started staring at me then, and I got used to it. Okay. So I'm walking around talking to my phone, all over the place, showing stuff, showing whatever, and people are staring at me, but it's fine. It's kind of fun now.
I wonder too if it's like, if I were in your position, I would just be like, well, I guess I kind of blend in since I'm Filipino as an Asian person, but like as a Gaijin like you are, I know that term from going to Japan. I learned about it as that it means foreigner. It's almost like, I mean, maybe when you put yourself in that bubble, you can kind of just imagine yourself in that moment as like role playing. Like, I'm a tourist. I'm someone from out of town. I'm chronicling something for my friends back home on like my camcorder or whatever. And then maybe that could get you out of your head a little bit. But it seems like you have figured out like a very useful way to keep yourself in the game. So to speak.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it also helps that as a Gaijin in Japan, people are always staring at you, always wondering where you're from. What are you doing here? Are you a tourist? Kids especially. Kids can't control themselves. Adults will stare at me, and then I'll look at them, and they'll look away. Kids will just be like, it was very intimidating at first, and then you get used to it. And now I feel like a celebrity in my area well before I did YouTube, just because everyone knows who I am. I go to a restaurant once, and all the, the waiters, the chef, they remember me the next time, so it becomes this whole thing where I got used to that sort of lifestyle. So it really just transitioned to the YouTube very easily. I think if I wasn't living here, it would have taken a lot longer to get used to that feeling.
Yeah, when people recognize you, are they recognizing you from your videos, or they just recognize you from just being a
No, I don't think anybody, there's very few people in Japan who actually know I create content, probably, except the people that see me walking around with the gimbal. They probably assume I'm doing something, but it's more that they just, I'm probably the only American in my neighborhood, so they just remember me from that. I also speak Japanese, not very well, but I always try my best, and I try to be respectful and stuff. So I think that comes off as something. Oh, it's that Gaijin who speaks broken Japanese. Yeah, I remember that guy. Then it ends up, I get a lot of nice treatment. Sometimes they give me extra food or special things. And so I've ended up cultivating this sort of celebrity status as being the American in the neighborhood, the foreigner in the neighborhood, I don't know. I guess it just goes from there.
So one of the other things I want to talk to you about is the live streaming. Because as I mentioned, I'm pretty sure that's how I discovered you.
I remember what stream it was. Yeah.
It was. I've actually been watching your streams before that. Before I direct messaged you or hit you on the chat, because I've been like, man, I want to have this guy on my podcast, but I just hadn't decided to ask yet. And then it was one afternoon for you, I think a couple weeks ago, where I've decided to finally like fire off a message in the live stream chat and say, hey, you want to come on my podcast? And you were gracious enough to accept the offer after we exchanged some messages over chat. How did you come up with the idea to just go on Reddit to live stream? I imagine you weren't even doing it as a way to promote your channel, were you? It was just because you wanted to do it. Or were you trying to use it as a promotional vehicle?
Well, yeah, I was thinking I really want to do live streams. When YouTube, you need 1,000 subs to do live streams, and I really wanted to do that as soon as I got to that point. I was only at like 200 subs when I started on Reddit, and just a couple months ago. It's kind of crazy actually. But I just did one just for fun. I was like, I saw someone else in Japan doing a live stream, and I thought that's so cool. And I was watching it, even though I live in Japan. I was watching it. I was feeling engaged. I saw the community. I loved it. And so I just tried it out, and it's actually very addicting, being able to walk around and communicate with between, 100 and 5,000 people, like just, all over the world. And I love it so much. And I did start it kind of to, build my channel. Hey guys, I also do a YouTube. But it's become so much more than that now. I don't know. I just love it.
It allows you to connect with like already a built-in audience, right? Because you're streaming on like where in the subreddit, where in the world. Yeah. And I think that's like, for me, I think I subscribe to that subreddit, and so I remember seeing your channel just like scrolling through the feed, like through my curated home feed, and I noticed like, oh, this guy is in Japan and he's just walking around these neighborhoods and these places here in Japan. This is cool. It makes me feel like I'm back in Japan. And then again, I remember hearing you, I think, mention, hey, I have a YouTube channel. I sauntered over to your profile and then checked out the channel, and I was like, holy crap, this guy's YouTube videos are really good, and he has like fewer than 500 subscribers. So that's really cool. Are you spreading out as well? Like now that you have 1,000 subs, you've done live streams on YouTube, but I think you're also experimenting with Twitch too. Is that right?
So a lot of people are saying, hey, look, you're doing this Reddit stuff. You're not making any money because you don't. YouTube as well, right? And so people are saying, look, if you go on Twitch, we could support you. We could actually help you. A person who does Twitch in Japan, Keshin, has reached out to me and started showing me the ropes. And it's been, it's again, such a rabbit hole of like devices and things and knowledge that I have no idea how to do all this stuff. But actually what's really, I'm going on a tangent here again, sorry, but what's I tend to do that. So just like stop me if you need to.
No, all good, man. I love it. That's why the podcast is great. You probably should start a podcast at some point because it just allows for free-flowing conversation to happen. That's what I love about it. But
I love that too. So I created a Discord for the community, and that's where everything really changed. So some people volunteered to be admins, and then they created this beautiful community. And now it's only a couple hundred people. It's like 215, 220 or something at this point, but it keeps growing every day. And it's all people who just are so supportive, who like to watch my live streams. They want to get notifications. I have a community now, and it's beautiful. Like they're just really, really good people. And so they're the ones that are helping shape the direction I go. They're like, why don't you try Twitch? Why don't you try this? Giving me advice, what gear will help more, what programs to use, what bots I need, and various things. And if I didn't have that community, I think I would just be doing Reddit, and probably wouldn't change very quickly. So I appreciate that so much.
So those people came to you, like the community started forming off of Reddit, or were they also forming on YouTube?
A little bit on YouTube, but there wasn't much of it's not as easy of a platform to make a community when you're still under 1,000 subs. When you're, when you're still building, you don't even have access to like community posts, or you don't really talk with people so much via YouTube. The Reddit community, however, has just been so amazing. And like you did, people do reach out to me and they just want to chat or do things together. And I really love that. And now the Discord is, it's incredible.
Yeah. Tell me more a little bit about the Discord. Cause like you said, it's people who follow you, enjoy your content. They found you. But they're kind of taking ownership of that and like curating that themselves, which I'm sure for you, like you're very grateful for that. But at the same time, it's also something that you don't have to handle, have on your plate because you have so many things that you have to do in terms of making content on YouTube and then doing the streams in general.
Yeah, I mean, they have made my life so much easier because they've set the Discord up to notify any of the followers when I'm doing a YouTube live stream, when a new video comes out, when I'm doing a Reddit live stream. It's like they've got bots set up to announce to everyone. So instead of going on there being like, hey guys, I'm doing this, because Reddit is not good about letting people know when you're doing a live stream. They're still fixing all that. So what they've done is they've created this automated system that lets people know. And then a community of people can come and talk to me, ask me questions about Japan, or sometimes people are asking me questions. Somebody was asking me if they should ask a girl out. And, just like, oh,
they ask you for dating advice?
Yeah.
Wow,
but like I said,
awesome.
I answer anyone's questions, and I'm really happy to engage with any kind of community. So it's become a place where people come in and chat. It's at one point made my life easier, but also it's become a huge time vacuum for me because I spend a lot of time there.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
No, that's really interesting, man. And the one thing that just keeps crossing my mind here as we kind of dive deeper into what you're doing and the growth of your audience is just like the connections between what you were doing in your day job and your career. Are you still a principal at that school, or have you left that behind?
I had to leave it. And it wasn't anything to do with YouTube. I wanted to stay there. It was the parent community, the kids, staff. It was all really good, but there was just a lot of and I can't go too much into it right now because I'm still technically employed. I'm finishing off my holidays. I have like another week left or something. But it was become a very toxic place due to the company that owned the school. And because of that, I had no choice. I was in constant stress. I was having actually failing health from that because it was so bad. And since I left, it's become an incredibly toxic place. So I think the timing was perfect. I left that. I started the Reddit streams. I got engaged in this community that takes so much time that there's no way I could have done both at this point. Yeah, sorry, it keeps popping out.
But it seems like, it's almost like that career you had in schooling has kind of like prepared you for this.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because creating content on YouTube, most of the most popular content on YouTube is very educational, right? And you have a background of like 10 plus years working in education in Japan. And like you said, like doing live streams is almost like engaging with students in a classroom setting, right? Where you're having like a dialogue with one another. Is that something that you've ever thought about, like as you've progressed here in your career as a YouTuber, of just how much your career in education has actually, I guess, set you up for this new career in content creation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think about it all the time. I was a principal for about 4 years, and in that time I wasn't teaching anymore. And I missed it so much. I didn't realize that was something that I love doing. I love teaching. I love educating. And so when I stepped out of that into management, I missed that. And I felt like there was this outlet I couldn't do. So when I started the YouTube a year ago, I finally felt like I was myself again. I was doing something where I'm engaging with an audience, and I was so happy. And once I got more into it in the live streams and all those kind of things, I felt like this is exactly what I've been preparing for. And education has brought me to this point, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Did you, as far as teaching and going into becoming a principal, what was like the decision behind that? Was it just like the opportunity to move up in your career that it presented itself to you and you said, hey, let me go and try this? Or were there other things involved with moving away from teaching? Yeah.
I love teaching so much, but I've seen people in Japan doing this until they're 50, 60 and getting kind of burnt out. No one wants to hire them anymore because they're kind of older. And then there's no real career path. So for the longest time, I was really worried. Hey, I have a lot of energy now, but 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, what am I going to do? And teaching here doesn't really give a very good retirement or way to anywhere to go. So I thought I always want to move forward. And I had a pretty big career path with that school. I was a head teacher within a year. I was a manager very soon after, and then the principal job. So I wanted to get into a position where I could continue to work and have a better situation when I was older. It's basically why I did that. But I missed it. I think I pushed myself too hard to move forward and worried too much that I was, I'm getting older. I gotta get out of this.
Yeah. Well, now at least you are doing something that is related to that, or uses the same skill set, but it's something fresh, right? Like that's able to keep you a little bit more engaged as by doing YouTube content. I do want to ask you to go back to YouTube about just like the growth of your channel, right? You mentioned maybe just like a couple months ago that your channel was still like under like 500 subscribers, and now you're already like close to 2,000 subscribers at this point. Is there a particular moment that comes to mind, if there is one, as to why that may explain why your channel has been able to take off?
I think it really is the Discord group, because people get a little bit interested. They check out the Discord and they see that there's a whole community, and they get kind of excited about it too. And ever since that was made, I've seen a huge increase, I think, because when I started the Discord, I was probably 300, 500 subs or something. And now, yeah, it's just growing and growing. I got to 1,000 about a month ago, and now I'm nearly at 2. So this is growth that my channel has never seen. And I don't know if it'll continue. I have no idea, but yeah, I think that was the big change is now there's a community around it, and people that were only interested in live streams before are now actually checking out the YouTube, because I'm, posting content in the Discord and stuff. And yeah, I think that's helped, that cross community. That's the big thing, is getting the people from Reddit to come check out the YouTube, getting people from Discord or social media to come and check it out. It's very difficult, but that's, I think, what is promoting the growth.
It seems like it can be quite difficult to juggle like multiple different platforms as well, right? Like you're posting on YouTube, but you also have a Twitter, don't you? Or is that
No, I have a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're all the same content. I just post between all three so that I reach different audience. I even have a Parler, but I don't think that's really up and running again. I have a Patreon, so I've been also trying to post things that are not, more behind the scenes stuff that I don't post on social media. And it is very difficult to keep all those things up. It is more than a full-time job. And I think the timing that all this happened is amazing, that I stepped out of this very busy position and suddenly, getting again off topic, but it's probably since I left work that the growth has also happened, because I've had more time to invest into those channels, basically. The Instagram, the Twitter, Facebook, everything.
Do you also find that even though you're posting some of the same things, that it can be useful to kind of like reformat the content for those particular channels? Like if you're just like reposting like a YouTube video to IGTV, for example, do you feel like it gets the same kind of traction? Or have you ever thought about like, oh, maybe I'll just format this as like a Instagram Reels type thing that can be watched in like a minute or so? Is that something you've thought about exploring?
Yeah, I've played around with it a little bit. I've tried the Reels and the stories. To be quite honest, my overall social media is still quite small. I think I've got like 100 followers on Twitter or something. It's very all the social media is very oversaturated with Japanese content. So I think it's very difficult to step out. So I've tried various ways to separate myself, and I need to go more into that, but it's just time. I haven't been actually very active on social media in the last couple of weeks, because I've been setting up the live stream schedules and working on a lot of content. But yeah, I think that if you do want to be more successful and you do want to reach a larger audience, you have to try pretty much everything. I haven't done Facebook or Instagram lives, but I should be doing those as well. And I should be putting more reels and stories out. People are telling me I should be doing some TikTok even. And, it's just, but it would be the best idea, and I should, but I don't.
Yeah, that's always the idea, is like you should do something, but it's always like at the end of the day, you're only one human being, right? Yeah. And like how much of your bandwidth can you actually like extend? I think sometimes we see these creators who are like super successful, they're killing it or whatever, but those creators already have like, teams that are able to just handle that. They have like one person whose sole job is like to post to TikTok, and one person whose sole job is to post to Instagram. So I'm always like a big proponent of just like picking where I feel like you can take advantage, or you have like some unfair advantage at first, and then kind of growing from there and then seeing where it goes. But it seems like that's what you're doing, because again, you've been like doubling down on the streams and whatnot. And you mentioned you have like a live stream schedule. Like, so tell me about how you're planning all of that out. Are you like looking at the map and saying, all right, I'm going to go to this place and we're going to walk around for like however many, like an hour or however long your live streams are, and we're going to do a live stream from here this day? Like, do you have like a calendar or something set up?
Yeah, I just started that. I just started making a schedule. I just made like a simple Google Calendar, and then one of the people on Discord, Eddie Lee, he just took that and he made a really beautiful schedule, like picture thing.
Wow.
I mean, they're helping so much. I don't think I could do this the same without them. But yeah, now I've got a schedule, and I do exactly like, okay, I'm going to go to this place. I typically do a 2-hour Reddit live stream and about an hour YouTube at the moment. So it's about 3 to 4 hours of walking around.
Luke, another thing I noticed about your videos, at least like your YouTube, your YouTube videos is, they're like documentary filmmaker style, I would say. Like, and there were some videos that you've done like voiceovers for them, right? Like, could you tell me about the process of scripting out those videos in terms of the creation of them? Is that something that you do while creating the videos, or is that something that you don't do?
Scripting is, I do write a script, and I almost never follow it. I write a very detailed script, and yeah, pretty much it just goes out the window. But it gives me a basis. I'll look at what I wrote, and then I'll kind of free flow off of that. And I find that that's the most natural, because if I'm in the beginning, I was just reading, and I could feel like you can tell I'm just reading something. And I didn't like that. Yeah, it's a mix. It's very weird that I'll spend so much time writing out and then I won't read any of it. but it's part of my process, I guess. And so that works for me.
Yeah, I imagine, like, I always kind of think of like writing as a way to kind of clarify how you think about things. So it seems like that's what you're doing, is like, even though you write something out, now you have a general idea of like how you would just like articulate this in speech.
Yeah.
Right. I've thought about this a lot lately. I think that the reason why authors can make such good interviews is because when they're interviewed about like whatever their book is about, they've like spent so much time thinking about it and then processing what they think about it into writing, that when they now need to talk about it in an interview, that it's really simple to them, because they've done all the work of like getting rid of all the extra stuff that doesn't really like add to the conversation. That's just a random aside from me.
I never thought about that. I never thought about that, but it's probably true, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be, but who knows? Also, in terms of planning out the content for your YouTube channel, like how far in advance are you thinking about when you're going to publish videos, or are you making them on like a week-to-week basis?
I'm so far behind right now. I've got about 4 or 5 videos worth of content just sitting on my computer waiting to be edited. But it used to be just I would be scrambling like, I got to do another one. I try to put out a video a week, but it's hard with juggling with the live streaming. But my ideal is to get ahead where I have videos already ready and I'm just waiting for the next week to publish it. But I'm not even close to that point yet.
But hey, you at least have like a backlog of content, right? Like that's something that helps, I imagine. Like how deep is your backlog at this point?
It's getting there. I mean, it's getting to the point where, I'm editing a video and then another opportunity comes up. So a yakitori master mailed me and he's like, I can show you how to make yakitori for YouTube. I said, when? He's like, how about day after tomorrow? I was like, all right. And I drop the editing I'm doing. I go to his place and I start, he shows me how to make, yakitori, the skewered chicken. And then now I'm editing that. And then someone else is like, hey, this is a really good thing to do. You should go check it out. So then I'm constantly between editing and filming, which is great. I think it is good to have a backlog because it means that I can take it a little bit easy. I don't have to push myself. I got to go to the next place.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and then rather than like feeling like, oh my God, I have literally like nothing to work with. You've got stuff where you could just, go into the content bank and say, oh, hey, we have this video that I recorded, or the footage for this video that I recorded like a couple weeks ago. I now have the time to like put it together and edit it. What about in terms of like coming up with ideas, and then even just like meeting the people who have been like some of the subjects of your videos? I think that was probably like the first video I watched of yours, is when the video with like, I guess you're doing another video with like another yakitori master, but you did another video where you went to a yakitori chef's restaurant. Are you just like pitching them the idea of saying, hey, I have a YouTube channel, can I do this? Or like, were you already like a patron of that restaurant, and that's how like the connection began? How does that
well, yeah, I usually reach out. The very first one I did was at an American bar in Japan, and that was sort of my training ground for how to do that style. I just mentioned it to him, but he, as you saw from the video, he's 77 years old. He didn't really know what YouTube is. So I had to kind of explain what I'm going to be doing. And then he got really excited, cause he used to be on TV and everything. And he was excited to tell the story. And then from there, it just went full force. He talked for hours. I had a lot of editing to do. He wants to do a second video, actually. He wants to tell another part of his life. I mean, I think that's cool. He was so excited to show I had to show him how to like send people the YouTube link. He still doesn't quite understand it, but I helped him send it to his friends and family and all that. But yeah, I reach out to people and I just say, hey, look, I have a YouTube. Would you be interested? And most times they're like, yeah, I guess so. They're a little bit hesitant. They're excited to do it for their business, but they're a little bit shy for themselves.
I wonder if that's just like Japanese people too,
probably,
right? Like, because Japanese people try to be very like humble and like not, showy or anything like that. So like you essentially coming to them and saying, hey, I'm going to make, a feature length video about you. It like puts them in the spotlight that, culturally that's not something that they're accustomed to.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, but you're probably absolutely right on that part. It's probably why they're very shy when it comes to them. The second yakitori guy I just did a video with, he was happy to show how to do it, but he didn't want to do any interviews or talk about himself. And I said, that's fine. You do what you're comfortable with, but there's a little bit of hesitation. The rock bar guy, he didn't want to talk about himself either. He just thought I would film myself in the place, and that was it. So he was very nervous. He was downing beers in between shots and smoking cigarettes, and he was like, he was starting to calm his nerves, and he sounded so nervous and stuttered a lot, and I cut all that out, and he was actually very happy with the end result. So it's kind of a sales pitch for Japanese people. I think you're very right. I have to be like, I'm getting them to step out of their shell the way that I've had to do it. And it's not easy for them.
Yeah. And it sounds like you figured out a way to like make them feel comfortable to a certain extent, right? Like just by telling them there's no pressure for you to do anything for the camera. It's like whatever you want to do.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I want people to be themselves. I don't want them to have to feel and I pressured, but I also really appreciate them giving me the time. The yakitori video you watched, I must have gone there to film maybe 5 or 6 times, maybe more. And he was so patient. Wow. He would let me in before the shop opened. I even reshot a whole scene that took hours, and he was just so nice about it. So I think on the other end of them being shy and hard for them to sort of reach out, they're also very patient and understanding and supportive. And I don't push that. I try my best. I always check with them. Are you sure this is okay? If you don't want to do this, it's totally fine. I don't, even halfway through, I always offer to give them a copy beforehand. They can make edits or they can check, but they always say, I trust you, go ahead, which is really sweet.
Yeah, that's very cool. I imagine it's a little bit less hectic when you're just doing like the solo videos yourself, where you're exploring a place, right? Versus like having to document a person and their story, because it's more, there's more within your control, right?
Yes and no. When I do the filming for like a person, like those locations, I can go multiple times. I can take a long period of time. When I'm doing the travel stuff, I generally have a small window to work with of daylight. I need to fly the drone. I need to take a couple rounds where I go through with different gear. And I have to, and oftentimes I'm seeing multiple sites in one day. And so it's very hectic. It's very compressed. It can be very challenging. Yeah.
I want to know too, Luke, about just some of the early hurdles of getting started on your channel. Like, what were some of those for you that kind of prevented you from maybe starting this sooner than you would have liked?
Yeah, I in the beginning when my channel wasn't really growing, and I started looking at other content creators out there who've got millions of subscribers in Japan, and they're doing this amazing stuff with teams of people. I was very discouraged because I thought, how can I do better than these guys? I can't beat them. I don't have that equipment. I don't have that team. I don't have that time. Like, how can I ever be better? And that was so discouraging. But then I guess around the time that I had that moment I mentioned where I just decided to do it for me and not care, I also stopped comparing myself to them or trying to be better than them and just trying to be better than what I did before. So everything now is I want to do better than my previous videos, and I don't compare myself to anyone. And I think that moment really helped, because if I'm still comparing myself to the big time YouTubers in Japan, then I'll never feel good enough. I'll never appreciate my own content. And so I think that was a huge hurdle for me in the beginning. I was always discouraged to work a month for one video. They put out a very simple video where they're talking about a t-shirt or something and they get like 1 million views. And I was just feeling like so down about that. And I think that's a hurdle. Probably everyone who goes through, makes a YouTube in a genre that's already very saturated might go through the same thing. And I think that my advice for anyone doing that would be to only think about your content as far as you're bringing a different look to it, and your fans will like your look, and your fans can also like those people, but they can also like you too. It's not exclusive YouTube, right?
Yeah. It's just like you're like running your own race.
Yeah. I like to compare myself to my old videos, and I actually don't watch the other Japanese YouTubers because I don't want to be influenced by them. And, I want to create my own style. And I also don't want to think about like, oh, if I had that or if I could do that. I just, I want to do my thing. And I think that helps.
So what about today as the channel grows? Like, what are some of your biggest challenges that you think you face at the current moment?
That's a good question. I think just getting organized. Like I said, I have a backlog of content. I just now got a streaming schedule, but just being able to get more organized and learn more. There's so much to learn. If you really want to grow a channel, you have to know so many platforms. You have to know so many things that I had no idea about before, and I'm still learning every day. And I think that's the biggest challenge is trying to keep up with all this new information and all the things that I'm supposed to do if I want to grow as a content creator.
So as we kind of start to wrap up here, Luke, there are a few more things that I want to ask you about. One that's a little like off the wall, I guess, is one of the prompts that you sent me. And it's about the white hat. The white hat that you wear. What is the deal with the white hat?
I get that question a lot. That's why I said it to you, because like everyone asks about it. And it has all this, it has sort of a lore now, like a legend to it, because I crashed YouTube when I took it off. I'll get to that in a second. But no, when I started, and this also ties into the reason why my channel is very wholesome and why I try to keep things a certain way. I was working in the kindergarten, and the kids never see me with a hat. And so I kind of thought, if I wear a hat, maybe I'm like a different person in case they saw, it's like if they're, these kids are on iPads all the time. Kindergarten kids are on iPads. They're browsing YouTube. I thought maybe it would just be a different enough for a kid. They wouldn't necessarily recognize me. They just keep scrolling past, and it was sort of like a persona. Then I go to work. I'm not wearing a hat. I do Nomadic Gaijin. I'm wearing a hat. And then after a while, I started to like it. And then people were commenting on it, and it became something of like the whole thing. Part of my character is just having the white hat, and I've got like 4 or 5 of them now.
Where'd you get the hat? Where'd you buy it? Is it from like a local store? Or did you buy it online?
I think I bought it, at like a shop. I was just like, oh, a white hat, that's cool, and I put it on, and it was really comfortable. As I find, I'm not promoting Under Armour, but I find their stuff very comfortable, so I tend to wear a lot of it, and it looks like I'm promoting them. I'm like, hey guys, you should give me some money. But
at some point they will. At some point, The Rock will come at you and have you endorse the Brahma Bull line.
That would be amazing, right? Yeah, and then I was on a live stream last week, and someone said, "Take off the hat," and I said, "Okay, fine. I'm not working at the kindergarten anymore. Fine." I took off the hat. And then the live stream crashed. Yeah. It just completely crashed. And so it became a meme on the Discord where there's a cursed emoji is me without the hat. And people use that stamp now and stuff. God. It's really funny. But yesterday when I went to live stream, YouTube Japan crashed at the moment I tried live streaming. It was like all the streamers were talking about it. Like it was Google or it was YouTube had a major issue. And so on the Discord, people are asking me, "Did you take off your hat? Like did you create this problem that's happening right now?"
Oh
and so
God.
now it's become so much of the culture that I love it. I stick with it.
That's hilarious, man. It's so cool that you kind of like with this community that you have been forming, it's like now it is a real community because you guys have like inside jokes about things that are like meme worthy that only people who watch your live streams or watch your YouTube videos would know about. And that I'm sure like creates like a feeling of intimacy or connection, not only with you, but also amongst each other, like everyone who are in the community, because like these are like shared experiences that only people who follow you would know about. It's like the white hat, causing the end of the world or something.
Yeah. There's a lot of inside jokes and a lot of emojis and memes now on there.
Do you get all of them, or are some of them like?
No. I mean, there's some very common themes. I always get lost in my streams because I'm using my phone to stream. I often get turned around and lost, and so people are always excited. It's that time where Luke's lost. Yes, and then the viewership goes up. It's not on purpose either. It's like I really just when I'm streaming, I have no sense of direction. My hatred of stairs because there's so many stairs in my videos, and so all these little jokes that I think you're right. They tie the community together, and actually that's kind of I didn't mention earlier, but maybe another reason why I've seen a lot of increase in subs and attention. I think a big changing point for me, my buddy David was saying, "Hey Luke, you have an amazing life, but you don't share it. You just tell people stuff about Japan, but you don't talk about who you are. You don't get into anything about yourself. So people, you have so much interesting stuff. Just get out there and share your life with people and you'll be more successful." And so I started doing that and, introducing my wife and my dogs and the life that I live and I mean, with the streams and everything. And I answer everyone's question as honestly as possible. Sometimes to my wife's dismay, I give way too much information about myself. But that has turned the community into like something where people really feel they know me. And that's, I think, why it's growing. Because I'm not just some guy saying, "Hey, this is a really good drink in Japan. You should try it." But I'm like, "Oh, hey, it's me. It's Luke. The guy that you know. Let's come into my house. Let's talk about stuff,
Yeah. How do you know where to draw that line where, like you said, like your wife is saying, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that." Like I told them about that. Or is it just, I imagine it's just like, just throwing it out there and figuring it out as you go. Right? Is that something that you're consciously thinking about as you progress as a creator?
It started with the live streams, and I'm such an honest person, and I don't like lying or whatever. So when people ask me, I just tend to say the answer, and then I realize after some time, okay, if I keep giving these answers, people can probably hack my bank accounts. They know my pet's first name, my mother's maiden name, that kind of stuff. So I got to be a little careful about some things. So I'll hide enough that people aren't stealing my identity. And someone did. Someone went on Reddit.
Wow.
Mixed up the letters in my name, and started pretending to be me. And Reddit actually contacted me and said, "Hey, this person's impersonating you. Do you want us to shut it down?" I said, "Yes, please." So I mean, it's a learning process, and I've probably said way too much about myself, but I don't know. I think it's important. And comments I've gotten are that a lot of people doing videos here don't share much about themselves. So it's very refreshing for people to feel like they're part of my family. They're one of my friends. When they watch the stream, they feel like they're here with me, just chatting and walking around.
Yeah, I had another guest on the show, and she's a big live streamer on Twitch, and that's something that she talked about too. Is just she has a background in acting, And so live theater is like her thing. And so with like live streaming, it's more of like a, obviously similar to like a live performance on stage, but at the same time, it's more like just hanging out with your friends for the most part, rather than, a pre-produced video, which, there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And sometimes like you can't get that instantaneous feedback from the audience with that piece of content.
Yeah. I think that's really true. Yeah.
So Luke, the final question that I would like to ask you about here as we wrap up, finally, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been a great conversation with you. Is just where you think the channel might be going in the future. What are your hopes for it? What do you hope to continue to do as your career as a creator continues to move forward?
I don't really think about it that much. I really should, right? I should have the.
No, you shouldn't. Actually, like personally, like that's actually refreshing to like hear that answer to that question, because you're just kind of living in the moment, it seems like, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, 3 months ago, I had no idea that live streaming would be such a main part of my life. And so when I left my job, I just thought I jumped out of it. I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's next, but I feel like it's going to be exciting. And maybe I just don't know yet what I'm going to be doing. I don't know yet what my true purpose is or where my channel is really heading, but I feel like if I keep moving forward, it'll get there. And I'm very excited to see a year from now how different things will be. I don't know, but I love it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and chatting with me and just sharing your story thus far. I hope to have you on again when you have probably in a year you'll have 100,000 subscribers or something like that. Or maybe you might be pretty big, man. I feel like your content, as I said, your content is amazing. You put a lot of effort into it. It's clear to anyone that watches. And yeah, man, I just think that the platform will reward your hard work. So I encourage anybody watching this, listening to this, to go ahead and check out Nomadic Gaijin on YouTube and also check out his streams on Reddit and now Twitch. It's twitch.com/Nomadic Gaijin as well.
I think it's nomadic_Gaijin or Nomadic Gaijin together. This is how much I've used Twitch, but I'm going to be, but I'll even, I don't know how long it takes for you to put out one of these videos after editing and everything, but maybe by the time you do, how long does it usually take?
Oh, this video will probably be up maybe by July.
Right. So it takes time, right? And so maybe by that time, I'll actually know my Twitch handle and I'll be able to, I'll be doing Twitch live streams as well. But yeah, Twitch, YouTube, Reddit, whatever. Or maybe a new platform. I don't know what's going to happen, but.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe you might be doing TikTok by then. Who knows? And by that time, when that happens, we will already have it in the show notes for everyone to go and see. And so when people are going to rewatch this part of the podcast, they're like, wow, they weren't quite sure of what they were promoting there, but don't worry. We know where to send you. Just visit the show notes and you will know exactly where to find Luke all over the internet. So thank you, man, for coming on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me here. I had a great time. And my first podcast, by the way, like I said before, so very great experience for me.
Hey, once again, thank you to Luke, the Nomadic Gaijin, for joining me on this episode of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. Before all of you go, I have got a couple things for you. First, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend, send it over a text message, share it over Instagram DM. Just hit the share button and just share it with anybody that you can. Share. How many times can I freaking say share here? Beyond sharing this episode, you can also find the notes to this episode and past episodes over at www.videocraftshow.com. And also, if you are having trouble with scripting your videos and coming up with ideas of how to structure them, I have got a resource for you. All you have to do is download a copy of our free script template. Using it can help you organize your ideas better and clarify your thinking around the content that you're making. All you have to do is sign up to our email list. You can do that at www.videocraftshow.com. Scroll down to the free script template section. Actually, there is a button on our homepage that you can click and it'll automatically scroll you right down there, and you can subscribe to our email list that way, and then the script template will be delivered straight to your inbox. You can also just click the link in the description of this YouTube video for those of you that are watching the podcast on YouTube, and it'll take you straight to that section so that you can sign up to our email list and get a copy of that free script template. Also, if you are listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, could you do us a solid and leave us a review? We are always looking forward to hearing from you, so if you can do that, leave us a good comment, bad comment, whatever you want to do. I think we are going to appreciate it. Not I think, we are going to appreciate it. And also, you can go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done that already. You can also leave us a comment on this video. We are reading all of them. And hit the like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to stay up to date with all the content that we are creating here on the YouTube channel. And finally, got to go ahead and thank my team for helping me create and produce this podcast. Shout out to Nikki Vicente, my producer, Vinny Luterio, editing on the video, and Paulo Lopez handling graphics. If you want your videos to be edited and look kind of like this, just like this, then visit www.videohusky.com to learn more. We will see you next time on another episode, another edition of the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky.